Hi, am I on the air?
Yep.
Fuck.
Thanks.
I've been in the danger zone.
He got a bicycle.
Minus 5 stars.
Mango.
Huh? Yeah, my five. We're coming for you,
Jeff Harvey.
How much is a Skyway?
Play.
We'll play 21.
Fuck him.
Well, what is going down, everybody? Welcome back to another brand new edition of Am I Still on the Air? You know, your one-stop shop here for spoiler reviews of all the biggest movies going down. And tonight, it's all about the number one movie at the box office, the best movie of the summer, and quite possibly the year, maybe the best movie of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, some may say. So we got a lot to talk about. I'm very excited to discuss it. We're going to be talking Guardians of the Galaxy. Ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka. And yes, Guardians of the Galaxy. Once again, this is a spoiler review. So you have been forewarned that we are going to be talking about everything in this film from A to Z, the post-credit scene, the whole nine. So listen at your own risk if you haven't seen the film yet. If you want to hear a spoiler-free version of the Guardians of the Galaxy review, check out my brand new Am I Still... Now, see, they got me saying Am I Still on the Air now. Check out my Am I on the Air episode, just posted last night, called Hooked on a Feeling, so you can check out that episode for the spoiler-free review. Tonight, it's all about spoilers, and I'm joined once again by my homies here, Geeky Pat, and For My Peeples. You know how we do. Very excited to talk Guardians with these two. What up, gentlemen?
What up, Geek Nation?
What's up, my peoples? How you doing? Of course, they're not going to answer, but I'm assuming everyone's saying they're doing great at this moment.
Well, we're doing quite fine.
Yeah, see? I knew it.
Okay. So, yeah, we're going to talk Guardians, and, Geeky Pat over here has seen the film 3 fucking times already.
Yes, I have. In every format they let me watch it in.
He's seen it in IMAX 3D, in regular real D 3D, and in regular 2D. So,
at this point, you just need to get it bootleg and watch it from home.
Yeah, no, I might as well. Someone's cell phone.
You still got to check out the XD version, so...
There you have it.
So
you should go do that this weekend.
Still got another format to check out. But yeah, so that just shows you how much he enjoyed the film. I hope to see it again a second time this upcoming weekend. I know Peeps wants to see it again. There's so much more to see with this film. I felt like there was jokes and all kinds of stuff that I kind of didn't get to fully hear because I was laughing from something else, and I feel like there's a lot of Easter eggs in this film that maybe weren't catched on the first go-around, especially in the collector's den. And so yeah. So overall, first impressions of this film, amazing. We'll start off with overall impressions. We'll go around, and then we'll talk about positives, negatives, and kind of and anything in between. Overall impressions for me. Really, really looking forward to this film. I think this was my third most anticipated film of the year, and it's taken the number one spot for me. When you talk summer movies, this is definitely the number one summer movie for me. Some people are counting Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I say you cannot count that because that came out on April 4th, and technically the summer movie season didn't kick off until May 2nd with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So if we're talking the whole year, then I really need to see it the second time to see if I like it more than Winter Soldier, because I truly, truly loved Winter Soldier, and that was kind of like my top standalone Marvel film besides Avengers. And but Guardians, man, coming out of this, easily took that number one spot for me. This has everything I want in a film, which is comedy and great action, really cool story, especially like a sci-fi type thing, because we don't get that very often these days. This had a true kind of Star Wars feel going to it, and oh man, I loved every single character in this film. The bad guy was cool. I mean, there was nothing they did wrong here. I mean, the music choices were excellent. Chris Pratt is amazing. I've always loved this guy. He's always been a secondary tier character in everything he's done. And now, he's stepping up, man. I mean, he was the main voice in the Lego movie, and then now he's got Guardians, and next year he's going to be the main actor in Jurassic Park 4, Jurassic World. And, I mean, it's just, the doors are opening for him, which is awesome. We already knew Zoe Saldana was badass. I mean, of course, Natari in the Avatar movies, and, she's always just been a badass chick in so many different action franchises. And Batista, who I'm a big wrestling fan, so I'm a big fan of Batista's way before we ever heard of Guardians of the Galaxy or anything, and I was really hoping he was going to kill it, and he did. And of course, we got Bradley Cooper and Vin Diesel voicing Rocket and Groot, and they did awesome as well. I mean, I thought Bradley Cooper really killed it. I was afraid I was going to really be hearing his voice and kind of get taken out of the movie. And it never really happened for me. I thought Bradley Cooper was kind of using a different kind of tone than his normal voice is. And I never felt like I was just listening to Bradley Cooper. And that's a pretty cool thing to do.
Yeah, I forgot he voiced him.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't hinder on that. It's not that kind of voice acting where you're just kind of taken out of the moment because you hear that certain actor's voice, and which was awesome. We finally got to see Josh Brolin as Thanos, and Lee Pace as stop, you'll have your time. It was Ronan the Accuser, John C. Reilly, who I love, getting to be a part of the Nova Corps, and I mean, there was just so much in this film, and we'll talk about some highlights here. But like I said, my overall first impression, just amazing. You have to see this film. It just really fires on every single cylinder from the opening credits. There's a very somber part for the first 5 minutes of the movie, where you see Peter Quill as a child. He's about 10 years old, and his mother's dying of cancer, and it's super, super sad. It takes place in 1988, and then he gets abducted, and then the movie fast forwards 25 years, and then you get the Marvel kind of opening signature credit, and then the movie begins, and right from that opening scene, boom, Guardians of the Galaxy, and they got the song playing, and Chris Pratt's just skipping through the planet and kicking creatures around, and he's dancing to music, and it was just such an amazing opening to the film. I mean, right then and there, I was like, this movie's going to be so badass, and it just continued on that trail the entire damn time for 2 hours straight. Movie never lagged. There was never a slow spot, and it exceeded all expectations. I'm not a big fan of James Gunn. We were talking about this, me and the guys, earlier today. I don't like Slither. I don't like Super. He never really did anything that I truly cared for before. But man, I got mad respect for this dude. He wrote the script. He directed this. He got a connection to these characters, and he killed it. He knocked it right out the park. He's already been signed to come back and do part 2, which comes out on July 28th, 2017. And it's going to be incredible. So I'm glad. Marvel knows what they're doing when they pick their people, and he impressed the hell out of me. So my first impression, best movie of the summer, possibly best movie of the year. I'm going to hold my judgment on that till I see it a second time, but loved it. So, Peeps, your turn. First impression, what'd you think of Guardians of the Galaxy?
This is another one of those movies that just utterly got under my skin. I mean, I'm just kidding. I absolutely freaking loved this movie. As far as movies, how you had your top, man, what was it, 10 anticipated movies for the summer, Don?
I think it was 23.
Yeah, I think so too. But I mean, this movie has been I've been waiting for this movie ever since the post-credit scene from the Avengers. Post-credit scene, Thanos turns around, grins at the camera. I'm standing up next to my friend. I'm like, oh my God, Super Skrull! And I'm like the only guy there. And everyone's like, no, dude, that was Thanos. I'm like, why? What's the I didn't think Thanos was as important of a character as he actually is in the Marvel universe. So I go home and I look into it, and I ask a couple people, what's the dealio with Thanos? And they had me read a comic. It's like a kind of like a big bit of a graphic novel, but it's called the Thanos Imperative. And if anyone out there would like to know what Thanos and the Guardians are like in the comics, that would be, it's a pretty good start. It takes place after another major event, but the Thanos Imperative, it's a pretty good start. You will be able to, dive into the world, and anybody you don't know, obviously, you can back read on. But once, I read the Thanos Imperative just to figure out who the heck Thanos is. And it just so happens that the Guardians of the Galaxy are the main characters in it. There's a lot more of them, but it includes everybody from the movie. And, that right there, wow, these characters they're pretty cool. They've been around, I think, since the 60s, though their ranks have changed over the years. And so, and then not too long after that, they released that poster, the Guardians of the Galaxy coming to the theaters. And at that moment, I just exploded. I'm like, there's no way they can be putting this group of characters together. Like, there's no way it's going to work, but it's space, so it's going to work. Probably my favorite movie of all time is The Fifth Element. And this movie, it gives me that same feeling that I had when I watched The Fifth Element. Like, I'm cracking up. Like, we're talking about the movie earlier today, and I'm still cracking up at a lot of the scenes throughout the movie. And I know I'm going to be cracking up at this movie, for years to come. And it's just a perfect blend. It's funny. It gets you. Pat was talking about, he still gets a little bit sad when he thinks about, Rocket and his little, moment. And the action was great. And you're still kind of worried because you think billions of people are going to get killed. So you have these heroes that are. It's just a great mix of everything. Everything that I could want in a movie. It gives us, and this movie, honestly, like, kids, old people that know Guardians, people that don't know Guardians, everyone's going to enjoy this movie. So, well done. Thank you, James Gunn and everybody in Marvel for, putting this out. It's sad that Marvel doesn't own X-Men and Spider-Man, but at the same time, if they didn't, we wouldn't be able to get movies such as this and Ant-Man and Stephen Strange that we're going to be getting in the future. So, awesome movie, loved it, and I'm so excited for the second one. I can't wait.
Hells yes. So, Geeky Pat, your first impression after seeing it 3 times. So your 3 impressions on this film.
I am Groot. No, it's oh man. Yeah, I watched it 3 times, so like I think I like it now. No, I liked it the first time.
Now he likes it.
I watched it the first time in IMAX 3D, and I kind of hate Don for introducing me to IMAX 3D because I was just like, yeah, I'm never gonna pay that much for it.
Yeah,
and now
he
it's
messed
like,
me up too.
I know, punk. Anyway,
It's beautiful.
Oh, it is. It's a wonderful thing. It's like drugs. I can't stop watching movies that way. The Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know what to tell you other than that. It's the quintessential geeky pastime of movies. It's sci-fi. It's comic books. It's freaking Rocket Raccoon. I mean, if you would have said when it first came out. Well, okay. Rocket. How's that? No, if you would have told me that, hey, Guardians of the Galaxy is coming out, I would have said, and it was the least interesting franchise they could have probably put into a movie in my mind. I read 2 comic books when I was younger, and I didn't like it. And so I was kind of leery about the whole thing. Sean kept me pumped up because he was really excited about it, probably because he read that Thanos Imperative thing. But I just wasn't very excited. Then the more closer the movie came out, and the more and more I saw of it, it was starting to look great. So when I watched it, I didn't expect to get what I got out of it. And to be honest, the wrestler Batista, that's his name. You never know what you're going to get with wrestlers. So I thought, wow, he's probably going to be the worst character, but he's actually endearing. He's actually a character that you feel for, and he moves you. All these characters do. I mean, they start off as kind of like out for each other, greedy. They're not heroes by any, part of the word. And then there's a scene where they realize they're all going to have to die. You know, when he says we have to stop Ronan, and Rocket just tells him, "You're asking us to die," and James Gunn gives up. He's like, I mean, James Gunn. I don't know where that came from.
James Gunn gave up.
He gave up, and the movie sucked. No,
it's not late or anything.
No. Star Lord. How's that, Peter? He who? Star Lord. He You see what he did there? I set him up for that. Anyway, he turns around, like, I guess you're right. He kind of gives up, and then, they all one by one start to stand up. Rockets is the best, but they all one by one start to stand up, and they're willing to die for this. So these heroes, they're born into this heroes through their comradeship, through their friendship, and what's in stake. It wasn't like they just started off that way. And I think a lot of, like, the Avengers and things like that, they kind of just become heroes, right? These guys they shouldn't be likable people, but they are. And then they become heroes. So there's all this, like, character development in 2 hours that shouldn't work, but it did. I was attached to, like, I really thought it was all going to be about Peter, our Star-Lord. And, and I thought it was going to be about him. But really, it wasn't. It was about everybody. I mean, even the guy who kidnapped him when he was younger, he was a likable character. I mean, he was kind of a douchebag, but he still treated him like a son. Like, I didn't really ever think he was really going to hurt him, but he kind of looked at him like a father. But they had this whole pirate relationship. I don't know. Everything in this movie hit me on an emotional roller coaster. I was sad. The beginning was like the saddest beginning of any movie, and then it was funny, and then it was serious, and then it was funny, and then it was sad, and then it grabbed a hold of me, and it was this wild ride, and it did remind me of everything I liked about science fiction movies like Star Wars and certain Star Treks and Fifth Element and all those things in there. But it also reminded me of a good comic book movie like Avengers. After seeing it 3 times, it never got old. Nothing got old. I even knew it was going to happen, and I was excited. This is a great movie. I would definitely say it's probably my favorite movie this year so far. My favorite Marvel movie so far. And that's saying a lot, because I loved Avengers.
Yeah, it definitely is. I know as soon as we left on Saturday, one of my brother-in-laws turned to me and he said that's it. That's my favorite Marvel movie to date. And I was like, damn, like, you didn't even have to think about that. And he was like, nope. It was just like, that's it. And it was funny because he actually felt that way about Days of Future Past. If we're including all Marvel films, a couple months ago he had said that Days of Future Past was his favorite ever, and then now Guardians just chalked that one up. And
I was struggling between the second Captain America and Avengers, and this blows that whole argument out of the water.
Yeah, like I said, I can't. I just can't say it was better than Winter Soldier yet, but I feel like it could be. I really need to go through it again. So, all right, let's talk some positives. And there's a ton of positives here. I mean,
yeah,
we'll
wow.
go back around. I mean, for me, number one is probably the music. I mean, I can't even tell you the last time I felt music really impacted a film. The way that this film utilized it. The way that they kind of brought this all together was, when you meet Peter Quill as a kid in the beginning of the film, he's listening to a Walkman. And, like I said, his mother's dying of cancer. And, he's got this tape deck Walkman with this awesome Mix Volume 1 going on. And when he grows up and you see him on the planet and he's dancing and everything, it's all to that same tape that he was abducted with, which I don't know if you want to call it a negative, but where the fuck did he find batteries for that thing?
Space batteries.
There ain't no damn space batteries. They got double A's just floating around in space.
Energizers. They go on and on and on.
And
remember that.
No planet's atmosphere. Fuck that Walkman up. It was just,
I know the tape didn't get all wound up inside the Walkman.
Exactly.
He has no head cleaners on it either, so it's gonna eat tapes.
Yeah, it was a little much, but I'll let it be what it is. But there was so many moments with that, from, you know, him dancing with the Thane, and then, of course, the scene from the trailer with, you know, the Hooked on a Feeling playing, and he's like, you know, he sees the big blue guy putting on his headphones, and he's like, hey, that's mine, you know, and he gets zapped and beat down, all because he wants his tape deck. Then when they break out of the prison, and he actually goes back to get his tape deck, because he's all pissed off, and he's like, that son of a bitch didn't put it back in my bag, you know, and then he
was all happily listening to it.
Yeah, and he goes back and he risks his life and everything to go back and get this damn tape. And, you know, all the way up into the grand finale of the movie, he's about to get beat down by Ronan, and he starts singing, ooh, child, things are gonna get easy. And Ronan's like, what the hell are you doing? You know, and he's like, it's a dance-off. And he's just like, break it down someday. You know, and I was like, what the fuck is going on right now?
It was so awkward.
But it was so great, you know. And he's like, oh, I'm distracting you, jackass. And then fucking Drax just blows him up at the fucking market, you know. And it was just like, but the music just carried on such a connection, you know. Even that scene with him and Gamora, and he's explaining about like Footloose, you know, and he puts the headphones on
Kevin
her,
Bacon.
you know, and he puts the headphones on her, and she's like, I like it, just yelling, you know. And so music just played such a big factor, and up until, you know, he had that present that his mom gave him before she passed, and he never opened it his whole life, and then when he finally did, it was the Awesome Mix Volume 2, you know, and he pops that in, and it was just such a big thing, really revolved around music in this film, even to the end credits, which gave me one of my favorite scenes of the entire movie, which is baby Groot in the pod,
yes,
dancing to Michael Jackson, you know, some Jackson 5, I want you back. And it was the greatest, you know. Drax looks over and he just freezes, and he's like, "Oh yeah, oh baby,
great scene.
Give me one more chance." And it was just so good, man. I was dying, you know. So music really played such a big factor in this film. The chemistry between the 5 core, you know, group of the Guardians, that could have went so wrong. You know, you have like this upfront comedian type guy, you know, Chris Pratt, and then you have this, you know, hardcore chick, you know, Gamora, and then you have the big buff wrestler guy, you know, like just being like the dry, you know, militant fighter. And then you have a CG raccoon and tree. And somehow they all clicked and they all got along. And, you know, it just, the chemistry was so strong between everybody in this thing. Like, you believed it, and you believed that they had become friends. And, you know, it was so good to see. And, for me, you know, really the humor. I mean, the humor was the biggest thing. I know the three of us were just standing around quoting this thing earlier, and that's how much it like sticks with you. You know, from all the silly one-liners with Drax, so, you know, why would I want to put my finger across his throat? You know, and talking about, you know, like, you know, like, nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast.
It's so fast.
My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it. You know, because he's just so literal, and you can't fuck around with him. You know, like he was said at the very end when they give them their pardons, and they're like, "We've smuggled your records," and, you know, and then you have Drax being like, well, what if I rip someone's spine out? No, that's murder, and you're not going to get away with that.
Rocket.
And then, yeah, of course, Rocket, you know, what if I want something that someone else owns, but I want it more? Can I steal it? No. But I want it more than that person.
No, sir, you did not hear me correctly. I want it more than that person.
More than him. You know, and then, and just, oh my God, just so many just moments like that. One of my favorite parts was just Drax walking with them, and he's like, I'm so thankful for my friends. I'm thankful for Peter. I'm thankfful for this big dumb tree. I'm thankful for this green whore. You know?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, it's hilarious, you know. And then Nebula like shows up, and he fucking just blasts her with a rocket. And then he's like, no one talks to my friends like that. You know.
I wasn't seeing that coming. I thought it was going to be an epic battle.
You know what that reminded me of, Sean? That was the RPG shot from Punisher Warzone.
Oh yeah, exactly, exactly.
Nowhere, boom, RPG to the chest.
You just stepped up to 5 people. Like, how else did you think it would end?
Yeah, it was great, and I mean, and there's so many more moments On top of that, the action, of course, amazing. The real big Star Wars feel, like when Ronan's ship is going down and the Nova Corps comes out, and you got all these spaceships flying around, and
They do a space hug. Spaceship hug.
basically they all connect. They should have just formed Voltron at that point. So much,
He said Voltron.
but it was just so amazing, and like you guys talked about earlier, the heart of the film. I mean, really, the first 5 minutes are so somber with his mother dying that they, like, the way they did it was like they introduced that, and like I said, then they go into the Marvel tile, and like the movie's now gonna start now that we've gotten that piece out the way, and I mean, you felt for all of this. Like, I felt for Rocket. Like, I mean, when they were at the prison, and then Rocket comes in and he's like, he's all naked and he's all drenched down, and then you see all the pieces in his back, like of all the experimentation and stuff. Like, that was sad, and I mean, and how about Groot, like, saving all of them on Ronan's ship, like he just forms that big nest and like captures them all, and then what does he say finally? He says, "We are Groot," and I was like, damn, that's so sad, like,
and Rocket's crying already. Then he's crying,
like,
and
what are you doing? You're gonna kill yourself. You're gonna die, and he's like, "We are Groot," and he didn't even care. I mean, Groot was just amazing, like the way he was portrayed, because he was so sweet and he was nice. And then, of course, the one moment when he pokes like the 5 guards and just slams them across the fucking wall, and then he looks back with that big grin on his face. I mean, it just
love that scene.
Amazing. And then, Groot, Rocket putting Groot in the little planter, and then that's when we see him start to kind of grow back into the dancing scene in the credits, which was awesome. And even, like, seeing, like, Drax, like, pet Rocket at the end, like, that was so sweet,
comforting him,
Yeah, he's all crying because he lost Groot, and then Drax just puts his hand up, and, and Drax and him got in that fight earlier, and he called him a rodent, and, like, and vermin and all that stuff, and then you see that connection form, their friendship, and he pets him and everything.
it was like a subtle, sweet moment for Drax too, because he just doesn't come off as a caring guy in such a way,
Oh, exactly, totally. That showed the connection of their friendship by that point.
Yeah, he's the destroyer. Like, for him to even do anything like that would seem unheard of. But
so unheard of. They get in that drunk fight at that one part in the movie. Drax fucking basically prank calls Ronan and says, "Come on down to the planet," and then he's standing there with his 2 little knives as like 50 ships come flying in. I mean, just like I said, so like, the heart, the action, the laughter, the tears. I mean, this movie really, from the plus side, just encompassed everything you could possibly want in a film. I just so much to name. So I'm going to skip it over you to Peeps. What were your big positives coming out of this film?
My big positives, and I'm not going to get into it, but my big positives were all the nods that they gave the comic book fans. I mean, and that's my, gripe against X-Men Days of Future Past. I feel like everything they give you in that movie, they just write it out for you in your face. I don't feel there's enough subtleties that they've thrown in there to kind of give a nod to someone like me who's read the Thanos Imperative and Annihilation and everything else. And like the dog, Cosmo. Just the fact that Cosmo, the dog with the spacesuit, just the fact that dog was even in there, even though he didn't have any, he's a talking Russian dog for anybody who doesn't know about him, and he's a psychic as well. And just the fact that he was there, I'm like, thank you. I can now, whenever I talk about Cosmo and Pat's like, the dog, I guess. I think I might have Googled him once. You know exactly who I'm talking about now. And yeah, I mean, I could have done without the Howard the Duck, but it was cool. I was probably the only person that actually saw him in the collector's collection before the explosion. He was in the background there, and I flipped out. Oh my God, there was Howard the Duck, and nobody else heard me in the theater. So I'm like, all right, I'm alone on this one. And then, of course, end credit scene. Thank you very much for confirming that I'm not insane. But there's that, and also they visited so many areas that are in the comics, and it kind of had its the Super Friends kind of aspect on it. Meanwhile on Zendar, meanwhile on Nowhere, but they would just give you just a teeny tiny little.
What the hell was the big floating robot head?
Yeah, is exactly what they said. It's an ancient. They call them. It's not a celestial, but it's like an ancient. You remember when they were explaining the Infinity Gems, and the one had the gem in its like staff, and it lifted it up in the air. It's like Galactus.
Yeah.
They're these. Obviously stronger than Galactus, but it's like these ancient gods that are. Yeah, that exist, and this is like one of the original gods, and it's just a head that is floating around in how they say at the edge of space, and yeah, there's a space station inside of it. I didn't know that they mined everything that was the bone and the tissue. That was new to me, but I just knew of it as them using it as kind of like a space station. And their base of operations, but yeah. So yeah, no, that I mean, just the fact that was in it too is super awesome, super great, and there was so many other little pieces that they threw in there, even the whole explanation of the Infinity Gems, and for those that have been watching these movies and they know nothing about the comic books, they've seen the Tesseract, they've seen the Ether. To them, that they're just these powerful, creations that they've been using as a plot piece in the movies, and now this movie they finally piece it all together and explain what Don, myself, and Pat are talking about. Everyone else is like, what's an Infinity Gem, and now they actually piece it all together and explain it to everybody. It's I don't know, there's just so many pieces of it that were just, again, good, and I was really worried about how they were going to bring the group together. I was so worried that, all right, you got all these 5 characters. I knew in the beginning Gamora was going to be a bad guy, still hanging out with Ronan and Thanos. And I'm like, how are they going to do this? How are they going to get us attached to each character? How are they going to get them all to team up? I mean, there's a lot of scenes in the trailer that they didn't show in the movie. Where I think Riley said, they call themselves the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, that never happened. Exactly. I mean that didn't happen that way in the theater. They got the name Guardians of the Galaxy from Ronan. Like, we're a bunch of Guardians of the Galaxy, I see, or however he put. But
I think John C. Reilly thing was just something they did for the trailer, because that was that first trailer where they introduced all the characters, and then they call themselves the Guardians of the, so because there was a lot of other moments like that. I mean, there's that moment in the second trailer where Groot presses play on the mixtape.
Oh yeah,
and then he bounces back when it starts playing. The Hooked on a Feeling, and he's like, "Oh, like that was never in the movie."
And the Gamora being topless, I remember that in the trailer.
Uh-huh.
That's definitely going into my disappointments.
I'm sure they have a deleted scene with it.
Yeah.
But there's just so many different little teeny tiny nods to comic book fans, and I just thought it was done well. I again, once we get to the negatives, I'm trying really hard to think about negatives, but there were so many. It was lovely. Here, let me give it to Pat before I start crying. It was a beautiful movie.
Before we skip it to Pat, I meant to mention the whole Infinity thing, because I thought that was really cool that they finally explained the Infinity Gems.
Yeah.
That they kind of finally laid it out for the people that weren't catching on in, what started in Captain America, the first Avenger, and then into the Avengers with the Tesseract being the first kind of piece of the puzzle, and then of course the Ether from Thor: The Dark World being the second piece of the puzzle. If you saw the end credit scene of Thor: The Dark World, it was Sif and what's his face going to the Collector and giving him actually the Ether, and saying keep it in a safe spot, and then he says, 1 down, 5 to go, so it's like.
And nobody but us knew what that meant.
Yeah, and I'm like, holy shit, he's talking about the gems, And then, of course, it makes sense that, of course, he wants the purple gem, because there's the other piece of the puzzle. And, and I felt like everybody was fighting over this orb, and I was like, I bet you anything there's got to be an Infinity Gem in this thing, and it was cool to see him open it and really explain when it shot out and it showed all the different gems, and he talked about ultimate power and this and that, and it was cool to see them finally flesh that out, because we all know where this is heading. This is heading to Avengers 3, and so we still got another 3 years, 4 years almost, to see this thing pay off with the Infinity story. But it's so exciting to continually see this kind of go that direction, to where we'll finally get Avengers: The Infinity Gauntlet in 2018, and where I truly feel like the Guardians will come to Earth and team up with the Avengers, and they'll all fight Thanos, and it's gonna be amazing. So that was a piece I really wanted to point out. It was so cool to see them finally explain the Infinity Gems. So, Geeky Pat, give me your positives of the film.
We'll have a little bit of good, a little bit of bad, a little bit of both. No, I'm just kidding. That's his line in the movie. I think if I had to sum it all up in one word, it's the humanity of it all. They could have easily made one-sided characters and one-dimensional villains, and they could have made the villains just all evil and the good guys all good, and they just didn't do that. They made everything very plausible. I mean, even the goodest of people have flaws in them, and even the evilest of people have good in them. So, like Ronan wasn't just this guy out to destroy the universe. He just wanted vengeance, and he was a zealot. That's all he was. He was going to die in his own mind doing this, and so he wasn't fearful of the most powerful being he knew. He wasn't fearful of dying. He wanted to destroy.
He didn't care about casualties?
Nothing. He didn't care. The whole ship could have died. He could have died doing it. He just wanted to get vengeance. But it didn't make him a horrible man. He wasn't out to kill everybody. He just wanted to get vengeance on the Kree. For the Kree.
Xandar.
Yeah. And in each character within the Guardians of the Galaxy, each character there, they all had different things that made me like them because they had so much humanity. I mean, Peter was kind of a scoundrel, you said it in your show, like a Han Solo. There's things about him that was just not likable, and there's things that was very likable about him, and it completed him as a person. And Drax, even his inability to understand jokes and stuff meant a lot to me. And then how he attached himself. He was angry at them, and then he was friends with them, and there was this double side with him, and I just did not see the whole Gamora thing as cut and dry as I thought it was going to be. I thought she was just going to be this villain that was going to betray them and then betray Thanos, and I didn't even know she was going to be part of Ronan. But yeah, she was very caring, a very a loving individual who didn't want to see innocent people die, but she was just total scary assassin-like person at the same time, and was very distant from people. And again, there was just humanity. And I think the most Groot was very surprising too, because I just thought he was going to be like Muscle, but he's very sweet and tender. When he was giving that girl that flower on that planet, and then he's like you said, he's just wrecking people. He stuck his fingers in the nose of that one guy, at the prison. Nathan Fillion, that's right, it was Nathan Fillion. So if you were looking for Nathan Fillion like me, I didn't even three times later, I didn't know until Don told me. 3 movies screenings later, I didn't know that was Nathan Fillion, but he was the big blue guy in the prison. But I think the most surprising out of all of them to me was Rocket. I really attached to him. I really felt for him. He was selfish, yet he was sacrificial. He was very complicated as a person, and like you said, Don, up to that point, he's like our narrator too, to a point, to what's going on in the galaxy. He's like the experienced one speaking, and when they're going into the prison and stuff, and while he's in the prison, he comes up with the plans, and he's like just building
I need
stuff.
That guy's leg.
Yeah, that was awesome, right? And that guy's like, no, why'd you get that? Well, you said I needed it. Oh, I thought it was funny. Did you see him hopping? Was it funny when he was hopping? It was,
and when he pulled it out again with the guy at the end, he said, but first I'm gonna need that guy's eye. And it's like, no, you don't. Yeah, I do. And he's all laughing. This shit was so great.
Yeah, I mean, he was, and then you see when he was all getting hosed down, he was all miserable, and he didn't make eye. Even Peter couldn't look at him anymore. It was like looking at an amputee guy. You didn't want to stare at him too long. I mean, he saw that there was something strange. And when he got drunk, and he was all like, "I didn't ask to be ripped apart," and put back together, and I didn't even ask to be made, And then he's crying when Groot is dead, and I don't know. It was just there was so much humanity in these characters, and so much plausibility as a character. There was growth, and you could like them and hate them, and the villains. Thanos, he was eerily powerful. My favorite part is when he's like, "I just asked you to take this serious," and he turns that chair around all slowly and goes, "The only thing I don't take serious is you." It's like, you're not gonna upset me. I'm Thanos. I mean, you're just some petty, pouting child to me. And I know that's something that Sean had a problem with. He could talk about that when we get to that portion. But to me, it showed Thanos as this character, and he was looking at this very weak, pathetic person to him at the time, and he wasn't going to get all upset about it. I mean, each character even brought... The only person that I thought that was like really one-dimensional even was the guy that was all like, "You will speak to him in this manner." That little slave guy that...
The Other.
The Other, is that who he is? Yeah, the guy that was in other movies. The guy gets killed. He seemed to be the same type of one-dimensional character, but everybody, even the Collector and the people that... Even the nobodies, like the lady was like, "I'll never be your slave again." Just seeing there's so much that you can relate to these characters. And to me,
there's more to her as a character, too. If those that know about the Collector, I mean, there's a lot more to her. I think she was his daughter or something. I don't know. There's a lot more to even just her.
But it because of this character, like you're just saying now, because all this character development, because of who these characters are, you want to know more about them. You want to see them go through. I was almost sad that they killed Ronan. I mean, I wanted to see more of his
He's not
plight.
dead, Pat.
Whatever. Anyway,
Who you talk to?
yeah, him and Koba hanging out. I mean, to me, all the other stuff, the comedy was great. The sci-fi was great, but the characters are what really made this me want to go back to this movie over time and time again. And I think my ultimate favorite was Rocket. And to be honest, I thought he was going to kind of be like a silly ass. Like, I wasn't going to really like him much, and I thought he was just going to be like this token kid character. And I was very surprised. I was very surprised about Batista and his acting. I was very surprised about... I mean, they didn't just give him throwaway one-liners either. Like, there was a part when he's on the ground, and he just got beat, and Rocket's like, "Boo-hoo," right? I mean, I felt bad for Batista there. He just looked vulnerable.
Rocket's all making fun of him.
Yeah.
I was like, "You little dick."
Yeah, you little douchebag. Yeah, exactly. And Groot's like, "No, that's mean. I don't care if it's mean." I mean, Rocket had a point there, but it was still mean, right? I mean, even Batista's character, I think he's going to do a lot more work after this, definitely, because everybody. That's what made it for me, was just the humanity of the characters. Everything else was just icing on this wonderful, beautiful, crafted cake.
Beautiful. All right, well, let's move on over to our negatives, and I don't think this will take very long. I know I didn't really have much. I mean, if I really sit and nitpick, I mean, one thing for me I wish I would have gotten a little bit more of would have been a little bit more backstory. I would have liked to have seen maybe some flashback scenes of Drax, with Ronan killing his family. I would have liked to have seen, Rocket and Groot, kind of maybe how they met, and or maybe just some of the stuff Rocket actually went through, and maybe Groot's own planet. Like, I felt like we got some decent backstory on Quill, so I don't think we needed really any more of that, but I would have even liked to have seen a little bit more of Gamora growing up, so I felt like because they jumped right in, with Guardians, and they kind of had this ensemble picture, they had to skip a lot of the backstory. And I just would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that. Now, Peeps, you could probably clear this up, but with my understanding, wasn't Drax a human at one point as well?
In the comic book, yes, but that, I think, would be something probably be a little bit hard to explain now. Because, yes, he was a human, and in the comics, it was Thanos that killed him and his family. As soon as Thanos lands on the planet, he is like, all right, well, there shouldn't be any witnesses to me being here. I don't want anyone tipping off the Avengers, so sorry, guys, I got to take you out. And he kills all of them, and Thanos' father takes Drax's soul and reincarnates it into a different body, and that's where he becomes Drax the Destroyer, and his sole purpose is to get revenge on Thanos. So it's a little weird, so I'm kind of glad they didn't go that route.
See, and I kind of wanted that. You know, like I had heard those stories, and I was hoping that they were going to kind of touch upon that, that he was human once, and that maybe he had the memories of it. You know, he blamed everything on Ronan, but then even after Ronan was dead, and at the very end, he was like, now I want to get Thanos, that bastard, you know, like, so
yeah.
It was kind of like, oh shit, like, you know, like, maybe because I remember, like, there was, you know, it was Thanos that killed his family, so I was just hoping that maybe that was the direction that they were going to go in, or I felt like they were kind of just skipping that whole background on his character, but it was just things like that I wish I would have had a little bit more of. Other than that, I mean, like I said, I mean, if you really nitpick, I mean, like I said, where did he get batteries for the tape player, and how did the tape not burn out? How was he floating in space and his skin didn't, like, immediately fizzle? You know, I mean, that was a little bit much, like when he went out to get Gamora after she blasted out of that ship, and, you know, you see him start to get cold and his body starts to kind of crystallize over, but he was out there for a long-ass time, and you know, being a human, obviously we can't just survive in space atmosphere. But
He's not full human.
And still.
That would be the only explanation, because his blood would boil from the vacuum quickly, like seconds.
Yeah. So that was a little bit much too. I mean, really, there's not much else I can really think of.
You're really trying, aren't you?
I'm trying, you know, I want to, but, you know, sometimes you just can't with these movies. I really felt like this was a near-perfect movie for what they were giving me. I maybe would have liked a little bit more Thanos, you know, I know that he was just supposed to be a tease, and they still want to kind of tease him all the way up to Avengers 3, but I want some more, man. I want to start getting invested in this character, so when he is, you know, going into battle in the third Avengers film, I've, you know, kind of got a connection with that character by this point. So these little teases are just kind of killing me, so I would have liked a little bit more of his. I think I was telling Pat this earlier, like, I felt like once Ronan had the Infinity Gem, I felt like he kind of punked out Thanos.
Yeah.
And Thanos didn't really do nothing about it. Like, he was just kind of like, don't you betray me, boy. And Ronan was pretty much like, fuck off. And then he just left. And it was just kind of like, okay. Like, so I didn't like the way they handled that, because I felt like Thanos is the Mad Titan and everybody's afraid of him. Infinity Stone or not, I don't think you would just, like, all of a sudden turn on the guy that quick, and then without any kind of repercussion. So I would have liked to have seen Thanos kind of do a little smackdown after that shit, but we didn't get to see that either. So
well, I think I didn't like the way Thanos reacted, but Ronan had no fear of Thanos in the end. Thanos was an end to a means. I mean, he's a zealot. He's the jihad of the Kree. He's willing to die. Thanos is, as long as he gets his objective done, he's not fearing Thanos. He does, you know.
And I also kind of had the vibe like he's now the man with the gun, you know. Where Thanos is a lot stronger than him, but I got a gun now, so I'm not afraid of you anymore.
But like Thanos just turns the TV off. You know, just turns the camera off or whatever. I agree with you. That was kind of a weak thing for Thanos, I think. That was like the one time that I saw something in Thanos that just didn't seem in character, maybe.
Yeah, it seemed like he got pretty much punked out, and I didn't like that. So
okay, you got the gem.
Yeah. He was like, don't do it. Oh, you did it. Never mind. You know, and it was just like, okay. But other than that, I mean, there's really not much else I can say. Like I said, pretty near perfect film. I really got a nitpick there. My biggest thing was I would have liked a little bit more backstory for the characters. Other than that, amazing job. You know, definitely, like I said, big thumbs up. So, Peeps, I know you always have some negatives, so why don't you give us what you got on this one? And I have a feeling Thanos is a part of that.
He might be a part of it. I don't know, but I'm there with you in terms of more character development, without making this, a 3-hour movie. There's really not a lot that they can give us, but they could give us like a flashback here and there. It stinks for a lot of fans of this that aren't into comic books, because they actually came out with 2 movie prequels that are specifically to comic book, and one kind of explains Nebula and Gamora's relationship and how they got to where they are today, and the other one is more of like a Rocket and Groot explanation. Though it's the Rocket and Groot, it's really not a prequel. Like, they're already friends, and all they're doing is like fighting gangsters in a bar. So that one's really not that good. But I really think I recommend the Gamora and Nebula. You get to see that Nebula is literally that redhead stepchild that just isn't quite cutting it in terms of getting in Thanos' good graces. Gamora and her are sent to do these missions. Gamora is always the one that ends up completing the mission, and Nebula is the one that always fails. And because she fails, Thanos has a motto, and I can't remember it, but it's something along the lines of cut off the weak and replace it with the strong. So if Gamora was grabbing onto a ledge and couldn't hold on, then Thanos would cut her hand off and replace it with a cybernetic hand. And I guess that's kind of where you see it in the movie, where she impales her hand, but it's really just a robot hand that she can detach.
You mean Nebula?
Yeah. And yeah, so like it definitely would have been nice to see a little bit more of that. Even of Drax, I would have liked to see Drax. Drax is, in terms of strength, he's on the level of the Hulk. And though you definitely are able to see, when he punches a few people in the prison, that he's a strong character. I didn't get the sense that he is as strong as. Again, if we ever see him and he arm wrestles the Hulk, I'm sure that'll be an epic fight. But I didn't feel that he was that powerful. I would have liked to see when Ronan came down and they fought each other, that it didn't come off as a tie, but maybe Ronan in the end kind of had the edge and pretty much beat up Drax a little bit towards the end. But Don made a good point that when Ronan did come down and they got in a fight, Drax was pissed drunk. So obviously that's if they were equal, fighting a drunk guy, there's not really much of a competition. So after Don explained that, I was like, all right, I'll accept that a little bit more. And then once he gets the Infinity Gem, obviously he's no competition for anybody. So yeah, he's known as Drax the Destroyer. I would have, I guess, kind of liked him to see him maybe rip a ship apart by his hands. That would have been pretty cool to see. And again, being nitpicky, he can breathe in space. He's like the only character that can breathe in space, him and Groot, but he needed a space helmet in this one, so whatever. Well, it didn't take away from. Yeah, he did.
When did he wear a fucking helmet?
When Peter and all them were in the Ravager ship and they were standing on the outside, and Rocket was like, "You have 5 seconds to."
Oh, okay.
And Drax is standing on top of the ship with a helmet on.
He's like, "I just saved Quill." Once again, blowing up the ship I'm on does not constitute a saving me.
I gave him 5 seconds.
I wasn't paying attention. We established that 5 seconds ago. I wasn't paying attention. I was thinking of something else.
Let me see other things I can nitpick at. I guess the Nova Corps. The Nova Corps is DC's
Green Lantern
version, or is Marvel's versions of the Green Lanterns.
Yeah,
and they literally have, it's called the Nova Force, and it's an energy that is spread amongst all of the Nova warriors, and the lower rank only get 15% of the Nova Force, whereas Nova Prime, which I guess would be Glenn Close in this case, gets 100% of the Nova Force, which is, she's like a serious badass. And they didn't really get into that at all.
That's one thing I agree. That's one of the things I had a problem with too. They were just like guys in leather suits with shiny symbols in the front,
with cute star spaceships.
Yes.
That was really all they could do, and it was nice that Roman Day they added him, and even the character that ended up dying at the end when he was using the ship hug to keep Ronan Shipaway. He's even a pretty big name in the comic books, but I would have liked to see maybe even a mention of the Nova Force or something. I don't know. Again, they're like Green Lanterns. They can fly up there and push the ship away themselves. Maybe they're not going to do that in this universe. I don't know, but I would have liked to see that. And Ronan, guys, he has to be alive. I didn't see a body. I did see some ashes, but
yeah, there you go.
That doesn't mean
that was his body after it exploded.
That was a teleport. So he turned it to ashes and he reassembled. No. Another thing with the Infinity Gems that a lot of people don't know, and I'm sure they're not going to touch on, maybe they will, but each gem has its own specific power. There's the space gem, mind, soul, reality, time, and power. And when Thanos is defeated, maybe spoiler alert for the third movie, I don't know, but when Thanos is defeated, Adam Warlock uses the soul gem and pretty much teleports Thanos' soul to the gem itself. And eventually his soul escapes and he becomes a douche again, but I don't know. I'm thinking this is the soul gem, and everybody that was destroyed by the gem is just pretty much pulled into the gem, maybe, possibly, perhaps, I don't know. And yes, I guess I'll end with Thanos. And Pat, he did make a good point on this too, so damn you, Pat. But I'll go ahead and
sucked.
I'll make a point. I'll cry about this anyways, but Thanos, as they mentioned it in the movie, they mentioned that he is a big deal. He is larger than life. You see everybody, Ronan, he grabbed one gem and he's struggling and he could barely even hold the one gem. Thanos is able to hold all 6 gems and be a boss about it. So he's strong. He's a big deal. And I don't think they really gave him justice in this movie. But as Pat brought to my attention, if they would have shown Thanos in the light that he actually is, it would have taken away from Ronan. It would have made us look at him the same way Thanos looked at him. Well, compared to Thanos, you're just a little kid. So I don't know why we're even worried about Ronan at this point. So damn you, Pat. I get it. I mean, when I was trying to use for an example, when you read the comic books too, everyone has normal bubbles above their head. But when Thanos' bubble, it's so different. The words, the letters, they're all squiggly as if he's speaking with like this demanding, powerful voice. And I was using that, Desolation of Smog. When Smog spoke in that movie, you're just, oh snap, this dragon is about to do something.
Yeah.
And I thought when Thanos spoke, he was really just an alien guy talking. And when my mom watches this movie, she's going to be like, all right, Thanos, who? She's not really going to know who that is. Yeah, he's a big deal because they say he is, but I don't think they really they didn't really show they didn't show him in the light I think they should have. And I thought in the People's version, the ending of this movie should have been Ronan landing on the planet. He's about to take everybody out, and then Thanos does some kind of epic front flip, backhand stands next to Ronan, backhands him, takes the gem, and then just flings his arms in a butterfly way and just kind of flies away. And then that would have been the end of the movie. And it's like, okay, Thanos is a big deal. He could take out Ronan without even having a gem. That is awesome. I don't know, but it kind of goes in with what you were saying, Don. At the end, when he threatens Thanos could have had a plan B just in case he betrays him and takes him out somehow. I don't know. So, and I also don't like the way he looked. He looked too Brolin-y to me. Everybody I speak to, I try to whine to about this. They're all saying, no, he looked like Thanos. I don't think he did.
And Josh Brolin looks like Thanos without the makeup. And that's another reason that they got him. I mean, if you just take a close-up look of Josh Brolin's face and put it next to Thanos's, even Kevin Feige, president of Marvel, was like, He was like, that dude is Thanos. He was like, even without the CG.
Yeah, what does Kevin Feige know, right?
Yeah, you know.
Sean People thinks that he
But
does.
Peeps doesn't think so.
I'm telling you, y'all, if it's the eyes that got me. It's Thanos has these glowing eyes, and if they're not glowing, then his brow is kind of creating this shadow over his eye, and you can't see his eyes. And when you saw his eyes and his pupils and his eyelashes, he looked, I don't know, I wanted to smurf him, but no.
The only thing I'll say for his look was he didn't look as purple as he did at the end of Avengers.
He looked blue.
Yeah, so that was my only kind of beef. Like, I was explaining to my wife that he was the same guy at the end of the Avengers, and she was like, the guy at the end of the Avengers was purple, though. and I was like, I don't know why he looked blue. But, it might have been just the light of the galaxy he was sitting on top of. I don't know.
It's true. Different lights, maybe, background.
Different lights. It was a darker universe he was in front of at the end of Avengers. He was in front of that reddish tint universe in Guardians. So.
Yeah, and I know I'm going to get more Thanos, so I'm going to be... It's going to blow my mind later on, so it's... Yeah, I need to watch it again. I need to see it again. I don't even remember what he said. I was so starstruck when he popped up. I'm like, oh my god, it's him. It's really him. And yeah, so... But I mean, like I said, that's really it. That none of that takes away from the movie. It's such a great movie, and thank you for the movie. I loved it so much.
All right, Pat, what negatives you got?
Well, I'm quite upset that Sean thinks that Ronan's alive. That's really my big no. I think I absolutely love this movie. So really, the only negatives I have is one, Gamora has too much clothes on. When they teased me that she was going to be a little half naked there, I think it could have been longer. Honestly, I normally don't enjoy 3-hour movies because they spend a half hour to 45 minutes fluffing it up, and I'm bored during that time. But I really think they could, like you said, they could have used some of that time to flesh out some more of the story. I wanted it to be longer. To me, I watched this movie 3 times, and I feel like it went by quick every time. Like, it was just, I started watching it, the ride began, and then it was over, and I wanted to get back on Space Mountain again. I had to go through the long line. So, I really wanted it to be longer. There you go. That's all I got.
Nice. All right.
I need to see it 4 times. That's my other... I don't know.
Fair enough. I mean, you just tied my Transformers Age of Extinction record, so... so... Alrighty, well, there you go. There's the positives, it's the negatives, it's our overall impression. So just wrapping up, we'll kind of do final thoughts and our ratings. Of course, for me, like I said, damn near perfect film. I've already said it's the best film of the summer. I think we can kind of lock that one down since, there's a couple other movies this month I'm looking forward to, but I don't think anything's going to touch this. So I think it's a safe bet to say this will close out the summer as number 1, possibly the year as number 1, definitely top 3 in the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. So they really knocked it out the park with this one. 5 out of 5 stars for me. Once again, this film gives me everything I want in a film. I'm a big action buff. I'm a big comedy buff. And if you can blend those 2 things together in a good way, you've got it. You've nailed it. And that's exactly what Guardians of the Galaxy did. So absolutely loved it. I can't recommend this movie enough. 5 out of 5 for me. Peeps, what's your wrap up?
Yes, I called it. I knew this was going to be the movie of the summer, and I just like being right. I don't know. I just kind of want to bask in this moment for a bit. But I knew it, and you're welcome. Especially you, Pat. You were like, "What's the Guardians of the Galaxy? Why should I like it?" Yeah. Good movie. Great cast. I definitely would have liked to see, Gamora, the deadliest woman of the galaxy, be a little bit more deadly and less of a damsel in distress. But, whatever. Doesn't take away from the movie. I love it.
We passed that point.
Yeah, no, that's final
I
thoughts.
didn't hear that as a negative.
I didn't either.
That's a final thought that I didn't get to
I
think.
never felt that she was a damsel in distress, by the way.
She was a floating space corpse. She was in
That's not a
distress?
damsel in distress. She was in a fucking spaceship that got blown up.
If she was that deadly, she would have had like a space rocket in her
stop
pants.
She could have rode Koba back to the head.
it. Yeah.
You know what, Pat?
She was in a shitty little fake spaceship that got shot by something way cooler. So, that's not her fault.
Yes. Fine. But great movie. Loved every bit of it. There were some nitpicks, so I can't call it a perfect, so I'll give it a 4.5.
Oh my god.
But my rating,
with a
my ratings, hey, my ratings are never static, so that could change once I watch it a second time. But a 4.5 ish.
5.
It's out of 5, right? We're not doing 10.
Yeah, it's out of 5. So you can go 4.5 if you want to go 4.5, but
okay.
it's a little silly. But
go to the 5. What are you doing?
It's like he's so afraid to give a movie a 5 out of 5.
Scott Pilgrim's got a 5.
Oh,
yes, he did. I remember that.
Fifth Element's got a 5.
Oh, God.
So why wouldn't this movie?
Exactly.
Because
if Fifth
Thanos
Element can get it, then
than
there's
Fifth
no
Element.
reason. This is way
Thanos
better than
was-
Fifth Element.
Thanos was blue.
Oh my goodness,
It doesn't
it's
take
killing
away
me.
from the film.
Such a fanboy.
And and Cosmo didn't talk. Cosmo didn't talk. So
By the way, I didn't get. So I'll say I'm sorry. Let me backtrack to the negatives again, real quick, because that is my biggest negative. End credit scene, the worst end credit scene of any
Oh
Marvel
my god,
film.
was it not? My kids didn't even know what it was.
It sucks to wait through 7 minutes of end credits in a movie thinking you're going to get something really cool, and all I got was fucking Benicio del Toro's Collector drinking something out of a cup.
getting licked in the face.
Get licked in the face by Cosmo, where I would have preferred Cosmo to just talk to him, and that would have been a cooler ending than fucking all of a sudden you hear this stupid drunk voice out the side, and it's fucking Howard the Duck. No one cares about Howard the Duck. I've actually had some people on Facebook saying, like, oh, this is a sign Marvel's making a reboot of Howard the Duck, and I'm like, no, they're not. You need to give up that pipe dream.
Worst Marvel
But it was
character ever.
Horrible after credit scene. The worst one. I will never sit through the credits again to watch that.
That deserves a point, a half a star.
No, because it's end credits. That's not the actual film itself.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
The real end credit scene is Baby Groot dancing to Jackson
That's right.
5, and that alone is worth 5 stars.
Yes. Yes. And to be fair, is the equivalent of like we watch Batman v Superman, and they have Plastic Man at the end. I mean, it's just the most useless character in the comic book world. Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
So bad. So that's my biggest negative out of it is I was really hoping that we would get an Avengers 2 teaser, and
Yeah.
I got Howard the fucking Duck. So
A teaser to anything would have been better.
it's just
Sharknado 3.
I even heard Iron Man was supposed to be in this originally, but they didn't cast him because Robert Downey was on the ropes with re-signing his contract. So that would have been awesome. That would have made it 5.
They should have done something for Avengers. I mean, the first Captain America film was the last film of Phase 1 before Avengers, and the after-credit scene of Cap is the teaser for Avengers, and that was a year before it came out. So there was no reason that they couldn't have done that here, and I think if they would have tagged on an Avengers teaser to the end of this film, I think you would have got a good handful more box office as well. But an amazing box office. I just want to say, from a box office standpoint, $94 million. I personally thought it would hit 100. I lost a bet over this fucking thing, but
I would have lost a bet too.
It was worth the bet though. It's still $94 million. It's the biggest August opening of all time, and it literally made $1 million less than Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which is insane because that's a proven franchise that has the Avengers behind it, and it had another movie behind it. It beat Thor: The Dark World. I mean, it did more money than Thor's opening. I mean, that's crazy for a brand new franchise that's sci-fi and that no one knows what the hell it is. And I mean, they were estimating 60 to 70 for this film. $60 million was what they were hoping for, to be like, that would be a success, and this is where we needed to trend. And all predictions up until Thursday night had this thing doing 60 to maybe 75 tops. And then Thursday night it came out and it made $11.5 million, the biggest Thursday night opening of the entire year. And then it did $94 million over the weekend. So it smashed all expectations, all records. It's doing very well overseas already. It's already made close to $200 million just in its opening weekend if you include the worldwide box office. So an amazing success. It shows you that people trust Marvel. They know Marvel's going to put out great stuff. And it's, you know, it's a title that if you see that attached to something, you know you're going to get some quality. So, once again, hats off for that. So, 4.5 from Peeps. So,
4.5.
Kick it over to Geeky Pat. What's your wrap up and your final score?
It's a dark horse I never saw coming. Guardians of the Galaxy. I just didn't think it was going to be as good as it was. I thought it was going to be a fun movie. I think it's I really do think it's my all-time favorite movie right now. I mean, wow, I loved it. Go see it.
All time, like all movies.
All time right now. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. I saw it 3 times. I've never done that. Like in 2 days, I've seen it 3 times. So there you have it. I just like it. I really do. So go see it. 5 out of 5 for me because I can't go 5.5, I guess. Yeah, there you go. I'm not going to waste any more time. If you haven't seen it and something's stopping you from seeing it, stop being a retard and go watch it.
Hey.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There's your wrap up. 5 out of 5 for me, 5 out of 5 for Geeky Pat, and 4.5 out of 5 for My Peeples. So, thanks everybody for tuning in. This will wrap us up for our spoiler review. Am I Still on the Air? Guardians of the Galaxy. I'd like to thank my guest. First, I'll start with Peeps again. You can follow him on Twitter at 4MyPeeples. It's the number 4, my Peeples. Check out his show, The People's Forum, over on RedDragonsRadio.com. Got the history of comic book movies. Parts 1, 2, and 3 are posted right now. Part 4 coming this week, hopefully, if he doesn't slack on that. So, Peeps, why don't you give a shout out? You're muted, probably. Unmute yourself.
I'm definitely not muted. I was just pausing for drama. Okay, I'm sorry. But no, yes, please, I got Mr. Owens on the People's Forum, got my boy Fred. We're doing exactly what we're doing right now, but I just wanted to talk about all comic book movies from the start of Superman 1 all the way through to today. So check it out. All we're doing is talking movies, the same as we're doing right now. I'm sure y'all love it. And it's part 1 of part 3. Maybe it's part 4 of 3. I don't know.
Could you have made that any more confusing, by the way?
Not at all. Not at all. I'm sure they get it.
I give your numbering system a 4.5. I'm just saying.
So, yeah. For My Peoples, get at me on Twitter.
There you go. Follow on Twitter. Check out the People's Forum. And my other guest, Geeky Pat. You can follow him on Twitter at geeky_Pat. He's got a show called This Week with the Geek, also on RedDragonsRadio.com. So definitely check that out. His latest episode all about Comic-Con. So, Geeky Pat, why don't you give us a little shout out here too?
Well, first off, definitely go and listen to that. They were great. Those 3 episodes that are up right now, they're forever long, but they're awesome. So go over to the People's Forum and listen to them. They're really good. Just RedDragonsRadio.com. RedDragonsRadio.com. Can I get that out there enough? I mean, that's really where it's at. There's nothing on there about me that I need to see. Listen to Dawn's shows first. then Sean's, and then come to mine and have a little, dessert.
You can listen to about wife beating on it.
Yeah, big, PSA from Geeky Pat about wife beating on his latest Comic-Con episode. It's an hour-long episode, about half hour of it is all about wife beating and why it is not okay to put wife beating in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Because there's so many people that are upset about it.
So many people are upset and wondering, why is Hank Pym not beating Wasp in this movie? And we want answers, so...
Well, she's dead, so we guess we know why.
Sean sent me a big...
He needs to bitch slap his daughter in this next movie, then.
Oh, I hate you all.
One thing you'll find out in that episode, Geeky Pat does not condone spousal abuse.
Geeky Pat, don't play that.
I am Groot.
I am Groot. So, so check it out this week with the Geek over on RedDragonsRadio.com. And, of course, Am I on the Air? You can check out Am I on the Air on RedDragonsRadio.com as well. AmIOnTheAir.com. Listen to my latest episode, Hooked on a Feeling, chock full with the spoiler-free review of Guardians and all kinds of other news of the week going down. And, and thanks for tuning in once again to another Am I Still on the Air? I know a lot of you guys have really been enjoying these spoiler-filled discussions, and I'm glad that we've got people that are going to the movies to check these films out solely based on these reviews. So it's cool that people are even willing to listen to all the spoilers to know if they want to go check out the movie or not. So I'm glad it's affecting people, and I'm glad you're enjoying it, and we love doing it, and so thanks. So till next time, you can follow me on Twitter at DX.Mega, follow the show at Am I on the Air, and that'll do it for tonight. Stay tuned for our next exciting episode, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Deuces.
Red Dragons.
Red Dragons.
Red Dragon.